ratios. Yeah, tax to GDP around 21%. You go to South Africa, tax to GDP 26%. You go to other countries, they are taxing more. Nobody like taxation, and the tax man is nobody's friend.
Right.
But we need to appreciate that. We also need to be able to help. Now the finance minister have come down. Like my brother also, it's not more 1.75. It has been reviewed to 1.5.
Yeah.
And the telcos have also reduced their charges based on the government engagement by 0.25%. So it means that the impact of whatever government accumulated effect, it means that it has come down by about 0.75%. So we already at the moment 0.50.
Right.
So it means at the moment the net effect is going to be like we are charging e-levy of 1.25, because if government have come down with 0.25 and now at 1.5 and have been able to engage telecos who have also reduced their own by 0.25%, we will be able to appreciate it. I am yet to see or to hear that people are saying that we don't want to pay this e-levy because the e-levy is bad. I represent a constituency. I represent the good people of Tolon. They have given me the mandate. They have voted for me. I will support the e-levy 100%. If you go to the budget,
right,
and you go to Appendix 10E, you see the 21st century school under STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, of which my constituency is going to benefit from. One, Nyankpala, which is where UDS is situated. I have to support the e-levy because the e-levy will fund it. If you go to our tertiary institutions now, from level 100 to level 400, they are all beneficiary of the free senior high school. You go to teacher training college, you go to technical university, these are all product of the free senior high school. So if a policy, a one way or the other, government is doing something to touch our lives, and government want to be able to tax us to be able to develop the country,
you are all for
I
it.
will definitely
you are all
for
for it. Okay.
So we need to understand that.
All right. You are all for it. Let me come to Ajiman briefly. Ajiman, have you gauged public perception about the e-levy? I mean, you live in Ghana.
Yeah.
You know, have you gauged, and what do you think it is? Do you think that you are with the majority of Ghanaians in how you feel about the e-levy?
The worrying thing about this whole thing is the politicization of the e-levy. Ghanaians want development. And it's high time we find other avenues to raise revenue for Ghana, to aid development. We cannot continue to look elsewhere. I know budgets are made, and when budgets are made, we have our internally ways of generating the revenue and other ways of generating the revenue. That's looking elsewhere. Now, as Honorable said, COVID is in the wake. Donor agencies are bleeding. We cannot continue to look elsewhere. We want development as a nation, as citizens of Ghana. Why don't we help?
You've said this already. My question to you is, have you gauged public perception, and what do you think it is?
I don't. The whole thing is politicization of the issue.
Right.
So I don't even want to go there.
So you think that the NDC is against it, and NDC members of Ghanaians are against it,
They
and
don't want
NPP members of
development.
Ghanaians are for it?
The NDC doesn't
Which
want.
makes your feeling about it unoriginal, doesn't it? Because you are MPP
I'm not
and you
NPP.
support it.
I'm a citizen of Ghana, and I want development. I've been a community leader before. Let me give you a scenario.
Give me.
When I was a community leader, the entity that I belong to, or I was a member, we have a budget. Sometimes our budget will not be up to a certain development.
Right.
Now, what community members will engage me, or I will engage them and will do it, Honorable, we want this certain development. We've realized that this does not fall within the budget. Can we do something so that that development reaches us? It is the same thing. The government has realized that people of Ghana need a certain development. Now, if you look at the budget that was read, there are numerous developments that will put Ghana to a different level, another level of livelihood. And the government has identified another avenue to raise revenue. And we are saying there's a public sentiment, so we won't allow this to go through. And a party is saying that it is going to kill Ghana, when they know the truth that Ghanaians are going to benefit from what was read to us. So it's not about what the public feels. The issue is about the politicization, and I feel let us go through this process. The other side is we need to find ways to hold our leaders accountable to make sure that what is being said, what is being professed in the budget to us, that we see it is the green light to get us to the other end. It is being done for us. That is all.
You still haven't answered my question, Ajiman. Have you gauged public perception to the e-levy, and what do you think it is? You are telling me that it's partisan.
The public perception.
It's not about that.
It's being politicized. So I don't even want to go there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now let me bring it to see the civil society advocates. Michael, have you gauged public perception, and what? Actually, no, Michael, we've already addressed that.
Yeah, I've mentioned that, but I would want to address a few issues Honorable touched on.
Right.
I think it must be said and re-echoed that nobody is against contributing your quota to aid development. Indeed, it's a shared responsibility, and we all believe in that. And if it's a shared responsibility, and not only the fact that the citizens believe in that, but the executive equally believed in that, then we need to see some positive actions from the executive. And by that, I mean, for instance, look at the cost of running the presidency today. You see, when you talk about revenue, you are talking about revenue against expenditure. It's as simple as that. Indeed, this may not be specific to the NPP, but the cost of running our entire politics in this country is way expensive. Recently, the CDD published a survey that you need to spend about 4 million Ghana cedis in order to win your primaries and to become a member of parliament. So you go borrow money, or you take loans, wherever you get the money from, you go into this endeavor, you win power, you are in government, and you have to do all you can to basically exact from the system, so you are able to pay off. And you can only exact from the system. And you see, we haven't really gauged the cost of running our politics, and it's because we've messed things up. But that's a broader conversation to be had on, I think, from a very dispassionate point of view. But the main issue on this e-levy thing, listen, when this government started in 2017, we saw the number of ministries that were created. Indeed, civil society raised concerns. I vividly recall the president saying that yes, he knows what he is about doing, and indeed they know the end from now, and that is why they are putting in such mechanism, such machinery, in order to ensure that the challenges that confront Ghanaians are appropriately addressed. We all saw how they governed the country and what happened in the 2020 elections, but that was a huge cost of running government machinery. Some of the ministries were duplicates. So you had the Ministry of Transport, for instance, you had Ministry for Aviation, you had another Ministry for Sanitation, for instance, and local government. When you look at the Local Government Act, sanitation is actually a core function of what they do. But we created separate ministries, and these comes with additional cost. So it basically increased the cost of running government. Indeed, I think at a point, Parliament asked the executive, the presidency, to submit to them the officers that work at the Jubilee House. We saw the titles. People made mockery of some of the titles, but all these are paid. So you gradually increase the bill for the presidency, the executive. So if you are saying it's a shared responsibility that we should contribute our quota, we are not contesting that. But also make some effort from your side. Ensure that the expenditure angle is also looked at. Indeed, when we look at the expenditure today, we can cut down a lot if we really go deeply, delve deeply into the expenditure regime. As far as even this 2021 budget is concerned, we can cut a lot and save some money, but we are not doing that. Honorable, for instance, touched on MTN. When you asked about the percentage that goes to, by way of mobile money transfers and all that, I don't know whether in South Africa, for instance, they have an equivalent of the e-levy we have in Ghana. I don't know whether in Togo, where he referenced, they have an equivalent of e-levy. I don't know whether in the countries he mentioned, whether they have an equivalent of e-levy. When you are doing the comparisons, take like variables and compare, because it's e-levy we are talking about now. The fact that, and the point he raised, about the fact that our tax to GDP is low compared to these countries, it's the case. What do? Is e-levy the only option? Are there other options? We'll be talking about widening the tax net. It is because it's a difficult thing to do. It is because going into the informal economy to ensure that people pay taxes on the incomes they generate in the informal sector, but you need to think, and that is why we have government. That's why we've been paying our taxes for government, and not to take only the lazy way out by saying, I think Deloitte even came out recently that this whole thing about e-levy shoring up our tax contributions to GDP will not really be the case. It's never the case that we are going to expand our tax net by merely introducing the e-levy. Indeed, I work in the formal sector. I am paid. The last time I took my statement for a visa in the UK embassy, the High Commission, sorry, I looked at my statement. Each page, I had over 5-6 Momo transactions on each page. So it means that on daily basis, meanwhile, I pay my tax to you, and the money you've taxed on, whenever I send that money to any other person or to engage in any transaction, you tax again. Clearly it doesn't make sense. If government, and you see, another thing came to mind. He talked about the fact that what actually necessitated the argument in Parliament was because of whether
procedural.
Whether it should be on a certificate of urgency or not.
Procedural.
That's fine. Whether it's coming on a certificate of urgency or not, we still have to discuss the impact of the tax on the ordinary Ghanaian. But it surprised me because recently we had a discussion, and this a little digression, but let me make this point about the fate of our ambulance system in this country.
Right.
And we've had the ambulance bill in Parliament for months now. I think in the last Parliament, it didn't see the light of day, so it is supposed to start all over again. And the bill is supposed to streamline how our ambulance industry operates in order to save lives on time. But I was surprised to know that the ambulance bill got to Parliament not on the certificate of urgency. So clearly it tells you what government is interested in. When it's about taxing the people, when it's about going to the pockets of the people, you'd want to go on a certificate of urgency. But when it's about the lives of the ordinary Ghanaian, the ambulance bill should be on the certificate of urgency. But that never happened in the last Parliament. And I'm told it's going to restart again. But you see, listen to Ghanaians. You can't say, okay, there is a whole talk about the e-levy, so let me conduct some consultation. Listen, when you take the dictionary, the meaning of consultation is to seek the views of others. But what government is doing now is politically selling their views. That this and this and this are the reasons why we need to have the e-levy. That is what's happening. That is not consultation. It is not democratic. Indeed, when you look at the definition of democracy, for instance, Lincoln will tell you that definition, that phrase, have the repetition of the word people 3 times. What it means is that every democracy must be people-centered. What it also implies is that the people's views, the people's concerns must always be at the heart of every policy government makes. So you must listen to the people. If the people today are saying that, listen, we don't think that this e-levy is the way to go, it is not as though we don't want to contribute our quota to national development. After all, we've been paying taxes, we've been paying indirect taxes. What we are saying is that, listen, there are other avenues to raise revenue. Yes, we need revenue. Can we also look at the expenditure side? Can we cut down on the expenditure? And let me tell you why we are doing this e-levy thing. It is not, it's interesting that today we are talking about bringing development to the people of Ghana. We've all known the Akufo-Addo government. We've all known the NPP government and the penchant for borrowing. We know that. So why all of a sudden you can't go to the market and borrow? It is because your rating is very low. You can't go onto the international market, the capital market, and borrow at any favorable interest rate. And so you are stuck. So it is not about Ghanaians contributing to the development agenda of this country, but rather more of, as a country, we are stuck. We've messed up. Now, when we go out there to take any loan, any facility, we ain't going to get anything. Our only option may be to go to the IMF. Indeed, we don't want to go to the IMF because the IMF comes with conditionalities. And let me take this opportunity to educate maybe our viewers on IMF conditionalities. Going to the IMF may not immediately, or may have even never, when you observe the IMF engagement with Ghana, induce any economic growth, but at least they instill discipline. They are going to ensure that you don't fly an $14,000 jet when you are saying your economy is struggling. They are going to ensure that you don't keep employing people and ballooning the wage bill when you know that you need only 100 staff in a public agency.
Accountability.
And yet you take about 400 staff doing nothing.
Accountability.
Duplication of effort, and yet you pay them, ballooning the wage bill, and all coming back to haunt us as Ghanaians to be paying taxes.
Right.
So what the IMF will do is to instill discipline in what you do, to ensure that, listen, you must rationalize your economy. You must do what is right as a country. Indeed, when you look at our debt stock, it is the case that for our bilateral and multilateral engagement, as far as our debt stock is concerned, it's just around 30% or so. Over 60% is with the private investors, the international commercial market. That's where we've gone for our loans to help this country. And the challenge is this. Now, when you go to the IMF and even engage or negotiate with the IMF can talk to the other countries you owe as a country. That, listen, you're all part of the IMF. So let's see how best we can renegotiate the terms of engagement, the loans that Ghana has taken, and see the repayment terms. Let's have a flexible repayment terms for Ghana. But for the private investor, which is over 60% of our debt stock, you can't go to him and
you're on your own.
And that's a challenge we have as a country now.
Right. Okay. Honorable, let me bring you in at this point. Strong criticisms. Very strong criticisms. And if we are all being honest, all of civil society is just as strong and just as passionate. I haven't come across any civil society organization or any civil society advocate that's championing the e-levy. Doesn't that give you pause?
Yes, I just hope that I'll also be able to have the time that he has been able to speak.
You have
so
time,
that I'll be able. You see,
please speak.
Appreciating the fact that he's from the civil society. I appreciate the fact that they need a lot of education on the way governance work. They need to actually be able to understand how other things work, because when I listen to my good friend Mr. Michael speaking, I understand that there is a lot of education they need in terms of how governance work. You know, to look at the fact that, you see, that the first time when government came, or Akufo-Addo government came, we had about 110 ministers. But you could also realize that the president had made an announcement that if you are a member of parliament and you are a minister, you have to choose one salary. There's not double payment. You can have 80 ministers, and the financial impact will be more than when you have 110 ministers. In the previous NDC government, we saw the special prosecutor coming after ministers with double salary. They were members of parliament taking salary as members of parliament, and they were ministers taking salary as ministers. But when President Akufo-Addo, which is a public knowledge, he had said that you need to take one salary, you don't need to take two salary. You understand? And that was the impact. And every government, when it comes, it has a policy agenda in order to be able to achieve what it ought to achieve. This government, when we took over from the NDC government, of which I didn't want to go in there, but I just need to be able to throw all light so that my good friend Mr. Michael will be able to appreciate certain things that was going on. The time government took over from the NDC government, we were actually, the economy was limping, if not on its knees, seriously, with debt, with frozen public sector employment, with DUMSO, with non-teacher training allowances, non-nurses training allowances, and other things. You see, the economy was seriously bleeding. And you could see that when we want to educate the civil service, or society, they need to be able to appreciate how these things come together. struggling in terms of introducing tax. When the NDC introduced VAT, there was demonstration, Kumi Preku and other things. They went ahead and they were able. Kumi Preku. There was another 17.5% demonstration all over. They reduced it to 10%, and then the VAT were they were able to pass the VAT, and then everything was able to go on. If you look at the position of this government when we took over in 2017, and you look at the economic outlook, look at the performance of the economy, it was growing about 9.5% in terms of the economic growth. 2017, 2018, 2019, until COVID set in, we were able to take government from out of the IMF program. Mind you, the MPP government is not a government that will say that if going to IMF is appropriate, we will go to IMF. Remember, in 2000, when President Kufuor won power, we went to IMF. That was able to give us a HIPIC initiative, and we were able to bring the economy back to its normality. But in this case, we are trying to say that at the point that we are in at the moment, it has hit every economy. US had to inject $3 trillion into the economy to survive COVID. Last 3 days, you could see that in terms of inflation in the European Union, it has been hit by 5.1%. That is what we need to be able to appreciate and see that government need revenue to be able to move ahead. Then you come to ask yourself, in terms of direct social intervention, the civil society, of which I am also a member, if not a member of parliament, is also concerned that what is government doing to be able to reduce my burden. If we look at the whole of the NDC, they have never been able to introduce any social intervention that has stood the test of time, that benefit the ordinary Ghanaians, the market woman, the farmer. Nothing has ever been able to happen. But this is a government that has been able to do that. If I am a parent at the moment, from 2017 when the MPP government came into power, and I was able to say that, okay, I have 3 children who are supposed to go to senior high school. Now, if I'm supposed to pay, let's say 900 Ghana cedi times 3, that's almost 3,000. Government say no, none, no feeding, nothing. The money come back to my pocket. That is government who care for you. Talk about ambulances. At the moment, the NDC, when they were told to be able to bring ambulances into this country, they fail woefully. It is rotten. At the moment, someone is standing trial for that. Honorable Atu Forsen. But at the moment, we will be able to see that.
I'd have to only because you know, your colleague, Deputy Minority Chief Whip, just joined, you know, us. So we would graciously ask, you know, a citizen, a good citizen of the Republic of Ghana, to excuse us so that Deputy Minority will join us. So I'll take a quick commercial break. It's about to get interesting.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasacco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
Whatever the occasion, With ATL, you can never be out of style. ATL, bringing fabric to life.
Welcome back to the couch. This is the hard talk edition of the show. This evening, our conversation is the e-levy and all issues that come up with the e-levy. We have been in conversation with Michael Ni Abe, Programs Coordinator for FES. He's from the Civil Society Organization, so Civil Society Advocate. We have been in conversation with Honorable Habib Idrisu, his MP for Tolon constituency and Deputy Majority Chief Whip. We have just been joined in studio by the Honorable Ibrahim Ahmed, his MP for Banda constituency and Deputy Minority Chief Whip. You're welcome, Honorable.
Thank you, my sister.
Welcome, and we forgive you, Honorable.
Thank you for pardoning me.
But I'll come back to Honorable Idrisu, because you were, I want you to finish, and then I'll let Honorable come
Yes,
in.
thank you. So I was actually making the point that when civil society organization is of the view that government is not doing much in terms of expenditure, if my good friend is following the news, he could realize that government has been able to cut down expenditure 20% across board. And like I said, government is engaging, and government have engaged people so that we'll be able to appreciate the fact that the e-levy government is introducing. This is what it stands for. This is what it's supposed to do. So when you make a statement and then trying to let it look like, look, government is sitting aloof, government is doing nothing, government just want to tax people. And I've already made that point. Government have been able to get telecos to reduce their rates. Government itself have been able to reduce its rate. What the NDC stand for, or the minority stand for, they said they stand with the Ghanaian people and we stand with the Republic. The fact is that they are not thinking about Ghanaians, to be honest with you. They are thinking about the next election. They realize that if e-levy is passed, government will be able to realize the required revenue for development. And when that required revenue is being able to raise and we're able to meet our targets in terms of development, they should not be thinking about 2024 election. So it is the case that they don't want government to get that money to be able to develop. They are thinking about the next election. If NDC had won 2020 election, my sister, they were going to introduce e-levy by 5%, not 1.75%. If you go and read their manifesto, the People's Manifesto, you look at Appendix 8.7C. They said if the NDC government will, I don't have the document, but to paraphrase it, introduce a fee to regulate electronic transactions. That is Momo. It does e-levy virtually. It is an NDC manifesto. And the first people, my good brother is here, to have introduced what they call the Financial Transaction Act was the NDC. By then, the time they introduced it, 2013, 2014, Momo was not booming as at then. Momo picked up from 2017, 2018, 2019 going. So Financial Transaction Act, you introduce it. MPP abolished that one. And Momo is a financial transaction. So when you want to say, and sit down to actually let it look like the advocacy you are doing, the education of saying that we stand with the Ghanaian people don't want the e-levy, is far from the truth. What they care about is the next election, not the current happening in the country.
Right.
So we need to be able to, it's in their manifesto,
right,
black and white,
let's go
that they
straight.
were going to introduce that. And the point is that what this government ought to do with the e-levy. You see, we are in a difficult times in terms of the parliament that we have. So government is not trying to say that, oh look, I'm going to bulldoze my way through in terms of passing the e-levy.
Right.
But what government is trying to do is to let people know that, look, we have A, B, C, D in terms of expenditure, and this is how I am going to raise that money. So give me the opportunity to be able to raise. Let me give you an example.
Right.
If COVID haven't been able to teach us any lesson, COVID is able to teach us that the digital platform and digitalization is necessary. In the middle of COVID, you could see that even teaching, like tuition, was being done virtual. Now we have companies in Ghana who prefer to pay their workers through Momo than through bank transfer. There are companies like that. if Pan-African TV thinks that if at the end of the month I'm going to pay you, maybe the platform going to the bank to pay you through payee, and for me to send you Momo is better, it's still a salary you receive.
Right.
One way or the other. So now the point is that how do you pay your tax if you are paid through Momo? In Ghana, at the moment, we have about 30.8 million Ghanaians. And out of the 30.8 million Ghanaians, if you look at those who are within the bracket in terms of taxation, it's about 20.1 million. And out of that, we have less than 9 million Ghanaians who are paying any form of tax, whether direct or indirect tax.
Right.
So it means that less than 9 million Ghanaians are carrying the burden of 30.8 million Ghanaians. Then you ask yourself, how do you have to be able to do in order to widen the tax network? This is what government ought to do. But if you don't appreciate that fact and you just want it to create the impression and let it look like Ghana government is insensitive, my good friend is here. When we brought the budget, government have been a listening government, and government care about the plight of Ghanaians. He is here. They brought 5 issues when we brought the budget. That's the reason why they are rejecting the budget. One, it has to do with the GMPC Aka Energy. It has to do with AJAPA. It has to do with Keta Sea Defense. Then it has to do with the e-levy. Now government is being able to listen to them, listen to the minority. If actually they are whatever they stand for was caring for Ghanaians. The amendment has been done in terms of GMPC Aka Energy to correct the statement that was read in the budget. In terms of AJAPA, it's still in the banner. In terms of Keta Sea Defense, government had allocated 10 million Ghana cedi for feasibility and engineering work to be able to commence. E-levy, we were able to engage telecos to reduce it by 0.2%, and federal government have reduced it by 0.25, and now at 1.5, and government is able to cut expenditure across board by 20%. So if you actually care about the Ghana we are talking about, why do you still want to have a
absolutely let's bring Deputy Minority Chief Whip in the conversation now. So two main things, and I'll start with this thing about the e-levy already being in the NDC's manifesto. Honorable, did you plan?
Manza, let me say a very good evening to our cherished viewers, and to apologize for coming late. Actually, today was a very hectic day for us as a minority, because we realized that the very foundation of our democratic dispensation is being shaken, and therefore we needed to organize a serious press conference and to be speaking to all the other radio stations to let Ghanaians know what is happening and how best we can come together to be able to defend our democracy and our constitution. You see, are we applying NDC manifesto or MPP manifesto? If you are telling me that after we had been voted out, you did not have any manifesto, and therefore you went to take NDC manifesto and you are applying it, and meanwhile you don't know how to apply it, then it means you have no business being in government in the first place. And secondly, to say that what he saw and read in our manifesto, page 89 of the big manifesto, and page 99 and page 21 of the abridged one, that the NDC plan of electronic transaction, we said electronic payment, a uniform electronic payment policy.
No, you said fee.
No, there's fee. You don't understand. Let me give you orientation.
No, let's get it clear. It's e-levy there. It's fee.
We've assessed the manifestos. Indeed, what the NDC mentioned in the manifesto is granted its fee actually. But you see, when you, like the earlier Nanajima mentioned, when you transact Momo transaction with MTN, you are charged a percentage. I think Vodafone, you are not charged. There's no percentage charge, and it's different. It varies with the other telcos. So that policy is to ensure that there is a uniform fee that is deducted by the telcos, and not a tax being introduced by government. An apprehension is necessary here. That is what we analyzed all the manifestos of the various political parties.
So, Manchester, if you don't understand something, excuse me, ask us. What did you mean by page 21, paragraph C of your manifesto? The uniform electronic payment policy. There's no word like transaction in that page. And if you don't know, ask us. We are free to help you. Put that one aside. Why are we at where we are? To tell Ghanaians that Ghanaians are not being taxed enough is a lie. Don't misconstrue yours. The GDP that you overvalued, and therefore you equated it to the tax system, and as a result that you get a lesser figure. And so compared to the West African sub-region, we are paying the lowest tax to GDP ratio because you have overvalued your GDP, and you are saying that the GDP of Ghana now is about 500 billion. It's like telling yourself that you have enough money when you in actual fact you know the money doesn't exist. Economically, you've rebased the economy, so the figure you have quoted on the economy is a deceptive figure, and therefore when you are taxing, there will come a point that you will tax and there will be nothing there to be taxed, and that is why we are at where we are. And my sister, government has been a continuous process. We started in 1993 operating this fourth Republican dispensation. We gave ourselves some dedicated sources of fund and said no matter what, as for this, we will not touch it. It's purposely for road. No matter what, as for this, we will not touch it. It is purposely for education. No matter what, as for this, we will never touch it. It's purposely for energy. No matter what, as for this accounts, is purposely for infrastructure. That is how Ghana's governance system has been operating. We handed over to you in 2017 a middle income economy with money sitting on all these various accounts, well balanced accounts. Get fund, we gave to you. Ghana Infrastructure Fund, we gave to you. Ghana Energy Sector Levy Fund, we gave to you. Ghana Road Fund, we gave to you. You came to Parliament and wrote all the names of all the abandoned school and the uncompleted school dotted around the length and breadth of the country. That because of that, oh, Parliament, give me opportunity and give me approval. Then I will go and take 15 years receivable of the GET Fund and use it this year to complete all these 6,000 projects. We said, okay, no problem. You said, if I don't do that, because I'm operating free SHS, the children will not have school because enrollment will be increased. So it will be difficult. We said, do. You use the GET Fund receivable, which was dedicated purposely for building of schools as population is increasing. GET Fund will be building schools year by year. You went for 15 years. So meanwhile, we gave you a mandate for 4 years. You didn't think of who will be the president in 2021. And God is not an agomayon. Then you went for $1.5 billion. Convert $1.5 billion into cedis. What are we fighting on now? It's just $1 billion of e-levy. That's what we are all fighting now. The whole country is being turned upside down. You use just 1 week to come for $1.5 billion for GET Fund. We gave it to you. Then the following year, only to be told that, oh, the money I took, I couldn't complete all the schools. Therefore, I have to use a double track system. You wrote the name of Banaman Senior High Technical School before I gave my vote for the loan of 1.5 billion. You took it to be paid in 15 years. The Banaman Senior High Technical School block is still there. No contractor even went to site. When you took that money, put that one aside. We gave you 250 million in Ghana Infrastructure Fund. That's what Mama gave to you. Dollars, oil money. Even though we were getting only 70,000 barrels of oil a day, we gave you that 70,000. Even that 70,000, we used some to mortgage some to be able to do Ghana gas, and then to add to you about 2 additional oil fields. So you, in your time, you used to get 200,000 barrels a day. That one, in addition to the infrastructure deposit that we gave to you, $250 million.
You use it
So,
to
Ahmed,
you mortgage it. I'm telling you, nobody send you. Nobody send you.
Nobody send issue.
When we inherited,
was a financial issue.
And
you are mentioning all this.
My brother, I'm coming.
While you couldn't pay allowances.
I'm telling you how your conflict
allowances, and you
how you
mismanage the education sector. Come on, Ghana.
When you were talking,
I was quiet. Please allow.
Here, so you couldn't.
My sister,
Honorable, please allow Honorable to finish what he said.
So you mortgage the girl fund. Nobody attack you. You couldn't use the money for the intended purposes.
Honorable, your point is that there was money.
You mortgage that one.
Honorable.
The road fund, you mortgage that one. The energy sector levy. The energy sector levy for the Dunto, that one, they mortgage that one up to 2035. So now, currently as we sit here, if you are the finance minister, at the end of the month, in every year, you have no flexible windfall from any fund because you use all the dedicated funds to go for loans. So as we sit here, all the statutory funds are dried up because they thought they didn't know whether they were going to win the next elections. Therefore, they use all the dedicated funds to go for loan, only to be told that you are still the president. The GET fund 15 years has still not come. Energy fund for the Dunso that you are talking of, Mama brought it. You mortgage it up to 2035. So the next presidency will come up to 2035 will not have any flexibility. And rigidities in finances is the problem of every finance minister. It was on that note. That is why Setepe brought the Ghana Infrastructure Fund, Ghana Exim Bank, Ghana Energy Sector Levy Fund, all this in addition to the already existing ones. Now you use them up, you have nowhere to turn to. You come and tell us that sitting from where you sit, you see some electronic money rolling in Bank of Ghana, about 500 billion. So you have to tax it. Brother.
You see, my sister, when Ahmed is talking, Ghanaians are listening.
My brother.
And they know very well that you cannot say that you left some money in the under the education system. Why you couldn't pay teacher training college allowances? Why you could not actually pay nurses training college allowance? Whilst you left a debt of 120 billion Ghana cedis. Whilst you went to IMF and they had frozen public sector employment. So when you are saying this thing, Ahmed, let us be able to appreciate the fact
what
that
are you going to use? What are you going to use the e-levy for? Oh, we are going to use it to buy buses. Hey, buses.
Ahmed, you have read the bill.
You and I know in the bill, in the budget.
No, the bill.
Are we not going to use the e-levy process?
No.
16.20% to buy
Ahmed.
buses.
Honorable deputy leaders.
If it is necessary, why not?
Let's make progress,
Honorable. You have given to us. The bill before you and me in Parliament. The reason for the e-levy.
Remember,
you are going to use the e-levy to buy
me and
buses.
you in a meeting. We all agree that the e-levy, the bill itself, has been amended. There is an additional clause added. We are going to read the revised bill.
Honorable deputy leaders.
There is no revised bill before. What is before us is e-levy.
No.
The purpose of the e-levy, you start
Honorable.
procurement of buses and construction of roads. Is it true or false?
No, but that's true.
Honorable leaders,
So
can we please make
You start
progress?
is necessary.
Honorable leaders,
But
let's make
the
progress.
procurement.
Let's make progress.
What I want my brother to understand is that Ghanaians are
Make
descending.
progress.
No, you see, I am not the reason why he was late. I am not the reason why he was
Let's
late.
make progress.
So for that matter, you are not supposed to give him more time for being a serial leader. He needs to be able to appreciate the fact that I respected time and I was here.
I appreciate that.
So for that
I really
matter, you cannot give him more time. When you see the NDC,
Right.
this is a typical of an NDC person who they are full of assorted irregularities,
Honorable, my
contradictions
deputy, my
in terms of what
deputy
actually
leader.
they
Let's
put
make
out there.
progress.
So
I
what
want
I'm
us to
trying
make
to say
progress.
is that my good friend Ahmed, we
Honorable.
all know before NDC left, what they left for us, like a higher inflation,
Honorable.
higher interest rate,
We are making
higher
progress.
debt, higher GDP in terms
We are
of
not having this
revenue
conversation.
and
This is not a
other
conversation
things.
we are
So we
having.
need to be able to appreciate the
No,
fact
I don't want us
what
to
we
have
are
this
saying.
conversation. No.
We were in business committee meeting this
the conversation
and
we
we
are
have
having.
all been able to agree
Honorable.
on the
Honorable.
e-levy
This is not a conversation
and
we are
how
having.
it's supposed
and
to
you
be.
will, both of you
No,
will
but
not
if you allow somebody that were able
I'm not
to
allowing
frozen
both of you.
public sector
No,
employment because
Honorable,
they didn't
let's
have
make
money,
progress.
that businesses collapsed as a result of
Honorable,
Dumsor.
let's make progress.
Dumsor was a financial issue. And
You say we should educate Ghanaians to accept your e-levy.
No, wait. Let's make progress.
But you are the one who has actually.
What is the purpose of the e-levy? Procurement of buses, construction of road, and you start. These are the
Honorable.
And you start, and you
are denying me that
you
we are.
start is going to create jobs.
No, but what about the buses?
US wants to listen.
It's for the schools. Yeah, it's for the schools.
Are you buying buses for the schools?
And you could see that the
Honorable,
youth start
the
is
viewers
talking
want
about.
to listen,
You see,
and
I
they
want
want
you
to
to
learn.
appreciate that.
Please.
The youth start we are talking about. It is part of
I
the
don't want us
expenditure
to have this
government is going to use on the
conversation, Honorable.
e-levy.
This is not our conversation.
And no, he now
Let's
understand.
make
We are-
progress.
we are
Let's make
brothers.
progress.
So
I know you are brothers.
I need to let
But
him
you see, I'm
understand
very
something.
concerned about my viewers at this point. And right now, they are not getting anything from what's happening in the studio. I want us to make progress, Honorables. Please, let's make progress. Okay, so this is the situation that we find ourselves in. I'm always concerned about the end game. Right now, both of you have very entrenched positions. And when I say both of you, I mean your side. No, I haven't called you in. No. I haven't called both of you. Please let me finish. Let me finish, Honorable.
And we are able to be flexible to come 1.5.
Let me
They said
finish.
zero terrorists.
Honorable,
So they are still.
Honorable, no. I didn't. Let me finish my question. So, how do we make progress? How do we make progress from here?
You see,
It's very important.
I don't
to
think
me.
he has to come in. Because
No,
he has waited for
no,
Ahmed.
no,
Ahmed, I said,
no.
I'm not a reason for your- I cannot be responsible for your lateness.
Honorable, I'm sorry.
cannot be responsible
Unfortunately
for
for you,
this.
this is
you
not
know me, I can be
Parliament.
quiet
This
and
is the
you talk
couch.
with the
In making progress.
Honorables,
You see,
this is not Parliament.
I've
This is
been
the couch.
quiet.
Okay.
And
And I can be
unfortunately for
quiet
both
now.
of
If
you,
you can orientate and
over here,
convince me.
I am the only leader that matters.
Okay.
Unfortunately for both of you.
Okay.
So I appreciate that you are both leaders,
so
but
continue.
here on the couch, I'm the only leader that
Madam
matters.
Speaker, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
He has given
Michael,
you the title.
yes, I have the title now. Michael, I want you to come.
But
How do
I
you
think
manage-
so.
No, I don't like where you are going.
you are late.
Honorable, I don't
And
like
I'm
where you
not
are
the
going.
reason for your
I think
I don't like where you are going.
there
How do we make progress?
There are options available, I mean, to us as a nation. Indeed. So with what is happening in Parliament now, is either it is passed or not.
Right.
That's the thing. When it is passed, it means that is what we have. And I believe that for every action that government takes, there are consequences.
Right.
When it is not passed, what it means is that I'm sure there are other opportunities available to the government, including even going to the IMF, including even cutting down the expenditure. We keep saying that. And then Honorable touched on the fact that he thinks those of us in civil society need some education. And I listened to him, hoping to be educated, but it rather turned out that he perhaps may need some education. Because in my examples I gave, I didn't even mention ministers. He gave examples of ministers as the basis.
Said it.
I said
No,
ministries. I said ministries. Honorable, we can play back. I said ministries, and I even mentioned the ministries that we had aviation, we had transport, we had I mentioned local government ministry, we had sanitation ministry, when they could have all been, meshed into a ministry. That's what I said. When you talk about a minister, it's a single person. When you establish a ministry, it comes with its own secretariat and staff.
Governance cost.
And the cost of running a ministry is way huge than just a minister, as he indicated. So perhaps you would want to listen well and need further education on this. Again, you see, what I can see or what I'm seeing here is also the issue of public trust in what is happening. So he cited examples of monies they left for the NPP government. He also makes a claim that you can't say that you left all these money and still left us with this over 120 billion debt. That's what he says. But I think our viewers can even attest to the fact that you can owe someone and still have some money in your account. It's possible, is it not? That I owe someone, but I still have some money in my account. That is possible by our basic economics at home. So it is still possible that we leave money in some accounts for you, while maybe those also come in would inherit debt as well, including what is in other accounts. Again, the examples he touched on. We have the Petroleum Management, Revenue Management Act, for instance, which specifically says where we should invest the revenue that comes from our oil proceeds. We've messed it up. And you always listen to PIAC, always complaining. So it's the case that when government says e-levy is going to this, is government speaking the truth or not? Are we not going to be hit by the several examples we've seen in time past? So the issue of public trust is very critical here. Ghanaians know more, and that is why as a politician, your action and inaction matters. Now I'm hearing the two honorable members talk about the fact that the e-levy process will be used to procure buses, the U-Start, and I think one other he mentioned. But you listen to others, they talk about even the purchase of fertilizers. Recently, I think Michael was also giving another reason why. So it all culminates into the issue of public trust. You say something different in the public domain and entirely different from what is in the bill, which I'm sure most Ghanaians are not even privy to.
No, we don't know.
So we now get to know, oh, okay, this is what really they are going to even use the proceeds for.
So by way of education, what exactly are we using the proceeds for?
They just mentioned three.
Right.
These are, to be frank, when you are bringing a bill to Parliament, you tell us what you are going to use the money for.
Right.
And that is why I said, allow me to learn and you understand me.
Right.
You said you use the money, part of the money to procure buses.
Buses.
In 2017, when you came to power, you told the whole Ghana that no government ministry should procure new vehicles. By the end of the term, you bought 800 and something vehicles. So we ask ourselves, it is just 4 years. So if as a country, when you said no government ministry should procure vehicles, within 1 or 2 years, you procure about 800 and something pickups. So when you go to National Identification Authority, they have their pickups. You go to District Assembly, they have their pickups. You go to about 800. So you go to the ministry, the assemblies and the ministries. The vehicles are there and they have no money to buy fuel. It's a challenge. We have to evaluate that policy. Then we said, then the rest, they said, oh, I will use the rest to construct roads. But we have a road fund. So you don't need e-levy to construct roads. We have a road fund for road construction.
Public trust.
You brought a budget to Parliament and we even increased the road fund rate. Then you say, oh, now we use some to do U-Start. Then we said, no. U-Start, that is the reason why President Kufuor introduced the communication service tax for National Youth Employment Program. So that one too is there. So if this is what you are going to do, the thing you say you are going to do, we already have monies, dedicated funds for those, which you came to Parliament and we increased the rate for you. So why do you now tell us that you still want to go and create a new DC? Looking at it, it will not be in the interest of the state. Let's sit down. This is our annual desk talk. From last year to this year, there had been disagreement between both of us. And we saw this hazard light reflecting. And we saw there was something wrong with Ghana. So we said we could not vote on this annual desk report. Let's suspend it. Let's engage and consult. You said we gave you a liability of 122 billion cedis. It's true. You brought us a report saying that by the end of 2020, you've increased the liabilities from 122 billion to 340 something billion. Then so if that is the case, is the debt sustainable? Because of that, you and I couldn't decide on this. And we said very soon, when you are going to borrow outside, the bank, the IMF and all the concessional, they will refuse to borrow you. Because all these figures are known to them. Then in 2021, 2022, you brought this budget and you described the country that Ghana has moved from middle income country to now a highly risk distressed country.
Stressed, yeah.
And that with, if you put all your liabilities together, the debt to GDP ratio is now 77.1%. Then we say, but we couldn't finish even on the 2020 annual 4-year annual debt report. And you are telling us that means we are in danger. What we were supposed to do as leaders of the country was to sit down, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? This is what we're expecting them to do. Even today when we went to business committee, I raised this same annual debt report. That why, this is a very sensitive thing. Why are we unable to conclude on this? For the World Bank to now send us a signal that Fish has rated you, downgraded you, and given you B-. It was not lost to you. You saw the rating coming down. The arrow was coming down, and you saw it coming. It started up, coming down. That is why Parliament, we couldn't decide on it. It was frightening to you, frightening to us. Now we don't need to sit down as a Parliament of Ghana for Fitch to sit in Washington and come and tell us that your economy now has been downgraded to B-. We saw it and we knew it. We couldn't vote on it to advise the Minister of Finance. Now look, you inherited 122. Now you've increased it to 341. Now as I speak to you, it is now 350 something officially.
No.
Okay.
Before we start another argument, I want us to make progress. Honorable, what's the way forward? What's the way
forward is we need to sit down. I know.
What's the way forward? You will conclude.
If the IMF will not just accept you like that, if you go, they will reject you. Until we do.
But we celebrated coming out of IMF.
It is not like IMF is there. Then you go to IMF have come, then they accept you. All those signals, Adongo and Atufosi and minority, we pointed them out when they were mortgaging all those receivables. But if you're a finance minister and you go for international loan, then you borrow internally. The internal debt too, you pay it before you pay the external debt as well. So if I'm coming to borrow you, I look at it. Can you pay the internal loans and pay the external ones as well? But you were putting some of the debt aside. That this one is not part. You know Sino Hydro. You know the fight we had. Oh, it is a government loan. It's not government loan. The IMF, when they were going to downgrade them, they added all those things and said, you cannot, where you are, you cannot pay your
So
debt.
the IMF is out.
It's out.
What's the way forward?
Maybe if we see the way forward, now they have agreed. Today when we went for business,
we are running out of time.
When we went for business committee today, I raised it. I said, look, so what are we doing about the
What's the way forward?
The e-levy is not in the business for this week as well. We are planning tomorrow. We plan today for the 3rd week. Right. They are now saying that next week Friday, they will come and withdraw the e-levy that is before Parliament.
No. Remember when the minority leaders said no. Remember, Ahmed, I was in a meeting with you at the business committee.
Who asked that question?
Listen, you asked that question.
Why did I ask that question?
By then,
you see,
listen, by then,
let's hear him.
Beyond being leadership, I'm your senior and I know much of this than you. So it's orientation you are giving to the public.
Right.
So what is the essence of if you are saying you are not doing that? You have brought report. The report is in Parliament. Now you've gone to Takoradi to consult. You've gone to Kofodia to consult. You've got the input. How will you integrate that input in that report?
That is what
we do. If that is the case,
I appreciate that.
For them to know that their input is part of it, you withdraw this, include their input into
and then bring it back. So that's your proposal.
Is that what you said?
I appreciate that.
And this they said they are going to do it next week Friday.
Right.
But the minority that we also asked a question. You brought the bill. It's before us. Now you are doing consultation. We are not part of it. Then you come and tell us something and expect us to take it. Give us time and resources. We must, finance committee must also go on the. Other than that, next week Friday when they bring the new bill and lay it before Parliament,
you reject it again.
We will now tell finance committee now that this new bill is before you. Go and consult Ghanaians. We don't represent ourselves.
You saying the bill may be passed in the first
hold on, Michael. We are running ahead.
No.
Please, I need to hear Honorable on the
phone. A bill of that nature.
I don't want to interject.
No, please don't interject.
If you don't become the speaker,
I am the speaker. I am the speaker. Honorable, let's hear him. Let's hear him. Yes.
If they bring in next week Friday, I assure you, Parliament will go and consult those who we represent. Whatever they say is what we do.
Right.
It will be wrong for us to pass or will not
pass. It's not your call.
Right.
It is not your call. And you cannot make such a decision.
It's not like the decision of the House. It's not like we in
whether it should go or not.
They themselves, when
they also need it.
Then why NPP so they can't even mobilize themselves. But they are not in support of it.
Right. Honorable, come in.
Okay, thank you. So it's important.
He is saying that you are going to withdraw.
That's not accurate. In the business committee today, when the majority leader, today is his birthday, so after going through the distance, he left. I was the only leader from the majority side who was there. Then the minority leader was there. When the majority leader was leaving, the minority leader took over. Then he raised the issue.
No, I asked it.
I'm coming. So when he raised the issue, the minority leader had said that we were going to withdraw it and bring a new bill. And I said, no, that's not the case. We haven't said so, and we haven't concluded on that. It could be a subject of amendment. Before he was here, like he said, I am his. He has been in Parliament 3 times before me, and he should know that when the bill comes to the floor, it is subject to amendment. It is subject for people even bringing a lot of amendment. Somebody could say, even before, you could realize that before we went on 2021, there was already 11 amendments that were running that, to a point that someone even proposing that they should amend the 1.75 to 0.01.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So you should be able to understand that with your experience in the House, that when the bill itself, in its own form, every clause of the bill is going to be debated. That is what Ghanaians don't have access to at the moment, because we haven't done that debate, and anything can be changed in the bill. You understand? Because it is the decision of the House. You see, before this budget was read, you could hear the NDC position. They were of the very view and conviction that government is going to go to IMF. The former president John Mahama had made that statement. Other serious NDC people have made that statement. But when they see that government were not going there, and I want IMF to know that IMF cannot reject Ghana. IMF is made up of 190 countries, of which Ghana is a member. So if a member country go there to assess it, we are contributing to IMF as a country, because we are a member of that 190. So when we go in there to assess something, they cannot say no. But we will not subject Ghanaians to a frozen public sector employment. Now, when this government have been able to come, the NDC, when they were just there, as many as he has been able to mention, they could not employ anybody in the public sector. It was frozen. This e-levy, as he has said, what the U-Start ought to do is that if government is able to realize the money, let's say 1 billion of that amount is going to be committed to U-Start. U-Start means that the budget as he was holding it, if you look at the theme of the budget, it will tell you that building a sustainable entrepreneurship nation, physical consolidation and job creation. That is the budget for 2022. Government want to create jobs. NDC, when they were leaving, they could not create any jobs. Let me just use an example. NAPCO. NAPCO. You are engaged as a graduate and you are given 700 a month if you are not employed. 100,000 Ghanaians were engaged in that sector. I want to limit my argument to the e-levy. I don't want to go into other physical issues, and people will be able to understand. So the e-levy at its stance at the moment, we do not, and government is not only limited in consulting the NDC. Consultation doesn't mean limiting yourself to consulting the NDC, because they have made their stand very clear. And their stand was that it is zero tolerance for e-levy. Even when the minority leader made a statement to say that they will consider 1%, the minority chief whip had issued a statement to say that e-levy is 0%. They have zero tolerance for e-levy. Recently, you were in the meeting, I was in the meeting. We met as a group for us to tell you that, okay, with the position you are having, government have been able to consult and we are bringing it down to 1.5. You still say that it is zero tolerance for it. And for him to say that if we bring anything, they are going to reject it. You know, and like you said, you have been in Parliament 3 times before I have just come. I'm a first-time MP. But you know that you cannot sit down here and say that you will reject it. It's the decision of the House. And the decision the House take that day, either to accept or not to accept, doesn't lie in your hands. Neither does it lie in the hands of the minority or the majority. It is the decision of the House on that day. And we should be able to understand that where we are, if there is any government who is very sensible to the plight of Ghanaians, to the suffering of Ghanaians, to be able to take us out. When we were suffering, just saying that we were suffering during the NDC time in terms of other issues, sometimes you will see how the economy was performing. You look at the micro and the macroeconomic indicators and you fumble. Interest rate was skyrocketing, inflation was skyrocketing, and you could be able to understand the fact that where we were as a country was not good for us. Now, what government ought to do, as he said, government is able to reduce the burden. For instance, if I live in Tema and I am here and I'm going back to maybe Lashibi and I use the motorway, I'm supposed to pay 1 Ghana cedi.
Right. When
I'm going, if my car is big, others pay 50 pesos. Then when I'm coming back, I pay another 1 cedi. That's 2 cedis already. Then government is saying that in order not for you to have that impact in terms of e-levy, we are scrapping the roll toll. so that you will not pay that road toll. This is a government that care for
okay, so
people.
That's the whole conversation.
And you see, and let me come.
So just a minute.
You have actually given them enough time to speak, and then they have started. You see, what I want you to understand is that, and you see, we are not supposed to understand the fact that I've already said it. I have said it before. The e-levy in its current form and with it all intended purposes is here to help Ghanaians. The e-levy is an e-levy where government, if it realizes a revenue, is going to be able to use to develop the country.
Right.
We will be able to sustain other social interventions that government will be able to do. The youth start that he talked about, 1 billion will be able to create about 1 million jobs. For instance, if you just a graduate and you just finish school and you have learned some trade, and then government can train you. When you are trained, then they give you some capital, let's say 10,000 Ghana cedi. Go and start. That is you start. By that, you will be able to know that what you are paying for is good. You see the hypocrisy. Ahmed sent a lot of mobile money. As you are the MP for Banda, he sent a lot of mobile money. He's my friend. He is not bothered at all that he's paying 2% that goes to South Africa. But because government want to take 1.5% to develop this country, he hates it. Why?
Okay, thank you. 1 minute and we are out of here. We don't have time.
Yeah, you realize he said 2% goes to South Africa.
Right.
Then plus 1.75% that goes to government. So the e-levy in totality is 3.75. Now,
1 minute.
he has confirmed.
Honorables, we are 2 minutes.
Why is 2% goes to South Africa and 1.5
1 minute.
Then secondly, my sister, we are an oil producing country. If you take the PIAC report,
right.
PIAC is saying that they could not account for 1.4 billion cedis of oil cash. So if you have oil, when we have oil, it's like it was Christmas for the whole country. Now you are saying even the oil doesn't matter. Without have you been able to read the auditor general report? Have you read it? PIAC says
no. I'm telling you that when it was properly audited, you will see that the debts that you are talking about accumulated from 2014, 2015. That's what I want you to understand. When you look at the auditor, listen. This is not a public. This is not a document that I can refer to. When you take the auditor general report, the noise that you have been making about the auditor general report, I've been able to go through it, and I want you to understand the fact that the debts you are talking about in terms of what accountability was from 2014 to
then now you said that
is what the report has captured. That is what the
seller should not pay e-levy because you mismanaged the
Kenke seller, you were actually taxing them in terms of everything.
Thank you, Honorables. Michael, 1 minute.
I think when you listen to the conversation, COVID is one of the excuses being used by.
Right.
It's not an excuse. COVID is a reality.
Honorable,
it's not an excuse.
Let me amend my statement. So
amend your statement.
Is one of the justification being
COVID
used.
Gave us cash. COVID was a blessing in disguise.
COVID is one of the.
It gave you
saying that Ebola had happened. This is your COVID cash.
You wrote to us.
And what did government
say in terms of $2 billion?
So you think that COVID didn't affect the economy?
2 billion. Now you are fighting for 1 billion. COVID gave you $2 billion.
And when you talk about debt to GDP, US is doing about 85%. No, listen.
COVID gave you $2 billion.
You don't want to appreciate the fact that when you make some analysis. Now I understand the typicality of the
You see me, I don't lie.
That you do propaganda.
It gave them $2 billion.
You have failed to appreciate.
Of course, it's a fact that with COVID, some countries benefited from the. No, but COVID is used as one of the justification for what is happening, particularly even why government wants to ensure that the e-levy comes on stream. Now, COVID also affected basically everybody in this country, including the poor. So whatever we do, whatever action we take, we should be mindful of the impact on the poor as well.
Right.
We have COVID.
So for instance, when you talk about the road toll being taken away, and the fact that because the road toll has been taken away, the burden on the Ghanaian has been taken away, may not be entirely true, as Honorable Ahmed mentioned, because we know those Honorable have been, because those who pay the toll are largely car owners.
Right.
They are largely owners of capital.
Right.
No. But you see, where you'd want to free the burden on owners of capital, when you want to free the burden on owners of capital and introduce a tax regime that places huge burden on the poor, of course, it goes with your capitalist orientation.
No, when you say that,
no,
Michael.
Do you know that
okay, I think we need to end the show.
It's not farmers, but the NDC government were taxing cattle.
I'm sure that's why they were voted out. I'm sure that's why they were voted out.
Honorable, let's
I'm sure that's why they were voted out.
Michael.
The NPP being a capitalist, the NPP being a capitalist, neoliberal
taxing sanitary pads, and they were taxing Kayaye.
But you've increased the condom.
Why you tax? You have a problem with that. You were taxing condom.
You and me approve
condom.
it.
You were taxing
Now
that my father will use in the farm, and you were taxing that.
Okay. Thank you, Honourables. Thank you, Honourable Habib Idrisu. We don't have time, unfortunately, Michael. We really do not have time. We don't have time. He won't. Unfortunately, he won't. Michael. Okay, 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds, Michael.
So we should be mindful of the poor. I mean, it doesn't make sense to say we've taken
government care about the poor.
Okay, thank you, Honourable Habib Idrisu. Thank you, Honourable Habib Idrisu.
NDC, what did they bring? One.
Honourable Ahmed. Let's finish this conversation. So thank you, Honourable Habib Idrisu. Honourable.
You brought the road fund you mortgage you. Then fund you mortgage you. All the loans.
Ahmed. And what was the
even the youth employment? We left at 330 million Ghana cedis.
So thank you.
You feel that
the youth employment that you are talking about, you are having ghost names in there where people are in jail because of the youth employment mismanagement.
A lot of
or you have forgotten that people were jailed under the NDC for mismanaging youth employment.
Honourable Habib is saying, for instance, what social intervention has the NDC, for instance, introduced? You see,
no, you should mention it.
When we talk about
FQ was what?
Honourable.
You don't know it.
No, I know it, but it was what?
You know FQ.
It was what?
Free compulsory universal basic education. That's
something that was piloted in the north.
No, that's why you
in the north.
And that's why you read.
Only in the
FQ.
Free senior high school have no discrimination.
Didn't you attend FQ?
Free senior high school have no discrimination.
With that FQ,
it was only in the north.
Okay.
That was the only thing.
So thank you. No, Michael, anything you say would bring up.
Ahmed. No.
When we talk about social intervention, it includes the service and the infrastructure. So that's what we call in the social intervention literature social infrastructure that supports the service that you provide to the people. So when you are given a service and there's another regime that provides the infrastructure, you are all contributing to provide. So you can't just.
Which one?
Thank you.
When you talk about hospitals,
thank you, Michael. Michael, we don't have time. There's another show coming up now. We don't have time. So let me say thank you, Michael Ni Abe. Honourable, can I end the show? Honourables, can I end the show? Thank you, Michael Ni Abe, program coordinator. Oh, Honourables, please let me end the show. Thank you, Michael Ni Abe, programs coordinator for Civil Society. Honourable.
You are the member of parliament.
Honourable.
No, you have to.
It's okay, Honourable. We are ending the show. Thank you, Honourable Habib Idrisu.
This is the state of our democracy.
Thank you, Honourable Habib Idrisu, MP for Tolon constituency and Deputy Majority Chief Whip. And thank you, Honourable Ibrahim Ahmed, MP for Banda constituency and Deputy Minority Chief Whip. So I have had the Deputy Majority Chief Whip and the Deputy Minority Chief Whip in the studio this evening, together with Michael from the Civil Society, society. I hope that somehow you made, you learned something. I mean, now at least we streamlined. We know exactly what the E-Levy is supposed to do for us. 3 things. Let's never forget. Buses, roads, youth start.
We couldn't touch.
And we still have not found our way clear as to the way forward. Hopefully next week we will bring them back. And hopefully next week I will be a stricter speaker. Have a lovely evening. Next time I bring them here, I'll actually bring the actual whip. These are our whips, but next time I bring them here, I'll bring the actual whip and the actual whip. Have a lovely evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.